away because you don't want to miss this great adventure from the Netherlands.
The Netherlands is situated in the northwest corner of Europe. Her neighbors include Belgium, Germany, and Luxembourg. Across the North Sea is Great Britain. My trip started in the capital of Amsterdam. I would then visit a traditional Dutch village in Zaanstad. Later, I traveled southwest to The Hague along the North Sea. I would tour the miniature village of Madurodam, the world-renowned Delft factory, and the seat of Dutch Parliament. Next, I was off to Maastricht, along the border of Belgium. Here, I would wander through an ancient underground fortress and relive the battles of World War II among the headstones of 8,000 dead soldiers. The 1-hour taxi ride to my downtown hotel cost me $40 American. The Pulitzer Hotel offers exceptional service and is only 5 minutes from the heart of the city. There's over 33,000 hotel beds scattered around the city, and many, like the Pulitzer, are situated right on the canal systems. For decades, Amsterdam's been widely recognized as a backpacker haven and jumping-off point for young travelers, many on the road for the first time. The city has an excellent transportation infrastructure, as well as scores of luxury hotels and budget youth hostels to accommodate both the flush and the economically challenged. Since the early 1970s, Amsterdam has developed into a major transportation hub for global travelers. It remains a destination that attracts an eclectic variety of sightseers of all ages, regardless of the time of year. Many tourists first arrive in Amsterdam at the Central train station, which has connections to the airport as well as local tram services right on the doorstep of the station.
I like strolling through these kinds of things. You never know exactly what you're going to find. This place has been around for over 300 years now, mostly for locals. You can find anything from cups and saucers to books and clothing, whatever you're looking for, really. This is, I guess, some kind of traditional Dutch doll. It could also substitute for Chucky, I think. It's kind of scary, I don't know, and it's ripped and broken, but who knows, it could be worth a fortune.
I was ready to grab a bite to eat after a couple of hours of walking around the city, so my next stop was for a prearranged meeting with my guide, Garrett.
We're at the Pancake Bakery, and we're trying to decide what pancake to have. They have about 70 different varieties, anything from bacon and apple, or you can get, you know, your specialty pancakes with whipped cream and ice cream and cherries and all that stuff. So I don't know, what do you suggest?
Well, I go for a traditional pancake,
yeah,
which is maybe bacon and cheese, and you can have it as well with an additional mushroom or onion or whatever.
A good lunch in Amsterdam will cost you about 20 euros or $20 US. And with 1,400 cafes and bars, it's not likely you'll go hungry or be starved for variety.
Okay, ham, cheese, and that's meat, mushroom.
Thank you very much. And you'll be having that.
The omelette?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And the other two are coming.
It doesn't really taste like a pancake. It tastes more like maybe like hash browns or something. Very, very good. Very light. Very light.
Because of the limited real estate, living quarters are expensive, especially in the heart of the city. To overcome this problem, a surprising number of people have simply elected to live in refurbished boathouses that are permanently anchored along the canal system.
After World War II, there were not enough apartments available, so younger people bought bodies of old sailing ships. And then they put a little house on the top, and they lived there for 2-3 years. We have a saying in Holland, love makes a small bed wide. So then they were ready to find another place to live. And nowadays, they are extremely popular.
These days, there's more than 2,500 of these houseboats scattered across the city. Others have been turned into floating restaurants, and it's even possible to rent one for extended periods of time. This is the Zaanse Schans on the River Zaan, just north of the city of Amsterdam. Less than an hour's drive north of the capital, this is home to one of the most visited tourist attractions in this part of Holland. The Dutch countryside has changed a lot over the years, mostly due to urban development. Less than 50 years ago, even in post-war years, small fishing villages made out of brightly painted wood panels were really all you could find in your travels. Nowadays, the relaxing villages are more rare, and so they've become designated almost strictly as tourist destinations. Try and arrive here in the morning because during peak times, especially in the summer months, it can get pretty jammed with visitors.
There are actually 950 windmills scattered across the Netherlands. They have two uses, industrial and water drainage purpose. The ones you see behind me are industrial windmills. Now this village here is one of the more popular tourist attractions. You can actually go inside the windmill and tour it if you'd like.
For centuries, the Dutch relied on these windmills, and by the 19th century, they built nearly 9,000 of them. Originally, these wind-powered structures were used to grind corn, to remove the excess water from the low-lying areas, and to saw timber to build homes like these ones. But if you thought the Dutch invented the windmill, you'd be dead wrong.
The windmill was most probably invented in Afghanistan, and it came to Europe by the Moors into Spain, and we talk about the Middle Ages now. You know the story of Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, the man who fought against windmills, for instance. And from there, the windmill came to our country. Well, the windmills in Spain had a fixed top. In Holland, however, they made a new invention, and that was that the top of the windmill can be turned into the wind. And that was a new, very important addition to the windmill. As we have so many wind in our country, it's a flat country, and it can come in principle from all directions.
Today, there are only 950 windmills left in Holland, so the ones that have survived are now considered protected national treasures. Entrance to the village is free of charge, but if you want to have a look at how the windmills are used for grinding the various agricultural products, you'll pay a small fee to go inside. It was actually the invention of the camshaft and the crankshaft in the 17th century that allowed the Dutch to use the wind energy for a wide range of industrial purposes.
He's actually grinding up peanuts in there. These are peanuts.
Geographically speaking, Holland is 50% below sea level, and this forced the Dutch to deal with the difficult natural elements, both in the construction of their homes, as well as creative methods in harnessing their environment. Over the passage of time, the Dutch displayed an ingenious flexibility, right down to the shoes they wore, which are marketed in small tourist shops like this one.
First this machine. This machine is then for the outside shape.
The machines are over 65 years old, and they can mold a perfect wooden shoe in less than 5 minutes.
It's quite sharp, the knife, but it also goes easy because of the water inside. Like this, we have the rough shape of a wooden shoe. Now it's still not finished because now there's still a lot of water inside. I told you that. Well, let's try to see how much water.
Did we drain it?
That much water.
Oh my God, I thought you were joking.
No.
After my trip to the country, I returned to Amsterdam for an afternoon walking tour around Dam Square. About 16 million people live in Holland, which is about half the population of Canada.
It's early September and it's absolutely sensational out. The weather is perfect. As long as you have a sweater to wrap around your waist, you'll do all right.
Following the Second World War, the Netherlands was flooded with people from both Turkey and Morocco, in keeping with a more liberal immigration policy. Along with that liberalism, Amsterdam developed a reputation for embracing a freewheeling society. Decades of turning a blind eye to drugs, sex, and foreign immigration now have the Dutch seriously rethinking its past carefree attitudes. Many Dutch citizens, especially the more conservative, are now concerned about their reputation. The reality is, many Dutch are now expecting their government to make a dramatic shift to the right, which may alter the once freewheeling activities in the back alleys of Amsterdam. But for all the talk about Amsterdam being the drug bin of Europe, less than 10% of the Dutch actually use drugs. Most of these indiscretions are in fact committed by foreign backpackers coming to Amsterdam to take advantage of its darker side. Amsterdam is more than just dikes and bikes. It's a city that inspired some of the greatest artists in the history of mankind, including Vincent van Gogh and Rembrandt. Amsterdam is jammed to the brim with excellent museums, scores of terrific art galleries, and tons of outdoor cafes and restaurants for the hungry tourist. Amsterdam is often called the Venice of the North, and the first inhabitants settled here in the 13th century. It sits at the confluence of the Amstel River. By the 17th century, it became one of the most powerful trading centers in the world. These days, it's well known as the cultural capital of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. I started my third day of exploring with a look at some of Amsterdam's stunning architecture. Spending time on the inland estuaries is a favorite pastime for local residents looking for a little fun and relaxation on a Sunday afternoon. I thought it was an excellent method of getting oriented with the layout of the city. But the absolute best way to get around this city is on foot, and you can cover a lot of ground in a very short time. City maps can be picked up for free at the Central Rail Station, or your hotel will have brochures that highlight the various attractions. Most of the nation's major corporate firms, large banks, stock exchange, and insurance companies are all concentrated in Amsterdam. However, tourism is playing an increasingly important role. What makes Amsterdam so different from other European cities is the spiderweb of waterways dividing the city into about 90 islands, linked by their characteristic bridges.
All this walking around made me need a caffeine kick, so Garrett and I are sitting down having a cup of coffee. Now, how would you ordered these for me, so
Yeah.
how would I order in Dutch a coffee with milk?
Koffie verkeerd. That means a wrong coffee because there's so much of milk with it.
Koffie verkeerd.
Exactly.
And this is obviously just espresso.
Exactly.
That's universal, obviously. And what about coffee with cream?
That would be just a coffee.
It automatically comes with cream.
With cream, yes.
And if you just
exactly.
want black?
The cream is on the side, so you don't add the cream.
Oh, very good. So no problems there.
No.
Interesting. Well, I noticed that everywhere we walk down by the canals, everybody likes to sit down and take a break with their coffee and whatnot. Is that?
If you're a coffee lover, there's certainly no shortage of outdoor cafes. But socializing like this can get expensive, with a cup of coffee going for just over $4 Canadian. The changeover from Dutch guilders to euros jacked up the cost of living considerably in Holland. So most Dutch find their entertainment costs have soared sky high since the year 2000. You'll need to relax occasionally because the city can seem very hectic to outsiders. I personally found the narrow streets, all the cars and trams competing with pedestrian traffic, as well as the thousands of bikes, to be a bit overwhelming at times.
Parking a car is sometimes very difficult. Going somewhere on a bicycle is easy. Even the mayor of Amsterdam goes on his bicycle to the town hall, so it's a very common thing.
I'd be scared to get on a bike because I'd get run over, you know, and it's the bikes that have the right of way. At least I've found, even pedestrians walking on the street, you have to watch your butt because you're going to get run over.
Well, we are used to it, so that makes a difference. But for foreigners coming into the town, it can be very difficult.
No, there's no hope for this. Zero, zero, zero hope. Poor thing. Walking around, I'm really having the opportunity to take in the wonderful architecture, like this building behind me, the tower. It dates back to the 16th century, and in the later part of the 17th century, it was actually used to make Dutch coins. I'm gonna hop on the tram, go back to the hotel using my handy little pass that's in here. For about 25 euros, I get into 30 museums, over 30 museums. I get to ride the metro system all day, and you get like different kinds of discounts and stuff inside, so it's a very good investment if you're coming to visit the city.
There's a lot of ways to get around the city of Amsterdam, but a boat tour is a must if you want to fully appreciate the scope of this amazing city. In total, there's 1,280 bridges in the city of Amsterdam, interlinking the homes along the canals. It's interesting to note that the municipal government has protected the entire city center, and no building exterior can be entered without special permission.
Experiencing Amsterdam by foot is awesome, but taking a water taxi ride gives you a whole different perspective on the city. It's really relaxing. You don't have to worry about getting run over by somebody riding their bike or cars.
Do you know that there's only one natural waterway over here?
There's only which?
One natural waterway, which is the Amstel River. And fishermen who lived over here in the past had some trouble by floods coming into the mouth of the river, so they made a dam. Well, the advantage was no floods after the dam anymore.
Amsterdam has always been an important commercial port, thanks to having the country's second largest harbor. The only larger and busier port is in the city of Rotterdam. Dating way back to 1275, Amsterdam was nothing more than a tiny fishing village on the outflow of the Amstel River. When Amsterdam eventually received customs privileges, people were given the right of free passage and free trade within the country.
I noticed that there's not very much color on the outside of buildings, and everything kind of looks well, it does. It looks the same.
Yeah.
Is that they want to maintain that, I guess, or?
Well, you see that most of the houses are built out of brick and some out of natural stone, which is very expensive, at least in ancient days, because people had to import the natural stone from Belgium or Germany. And well, to show off, very often the top was given a special ornament by a natural stone when it was built out of brick.
Many of Amsterdam's canals were filled in around the start of the 20th century, mainly for sanitary reasons. These days, they provide a window on the city that most tourists can't resist. My next stop was a trip to the Henry Willig cheese farm just north of Amsterdam. The company produces 50,000 blocks of baby cheese every single day.
We add herbs and garlic. 7 types of herbs are in here. We call it also dynamite cheese because they say it gives you power within the hour. So, if you know what I mean.
The Gouda brand cheese will sit on the shelf for 3 weeks until it ripens. After that, it's exported across Europe and parts of Japan and Canada.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Woo! Yes, stuff.
One of the products that they specialize in is goat cheese, and I think I'm in the right spot right now to learn a little bit more about that, aren't I?
Yeah, that's right. People think of Holland mainly of Gouda and Edam cheeses, but we produce much more than that. And yeah, goat cheese also, it's made following a Gouda type of process, but it's a very different cheese, which is very nice. Dutch Gouda has a very mild taste, and it's a real specialty product and very popular all over around the world.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Gouda.
The farm property we're walking on is actually 2 to 3 meters under sea level.
Are these 3 different types of cheese, a variety pack?
Yeah, they are. This is just the plain Gouda type. This is the Gouda with pepper, and this is the dynamite cheese.
So I couldn't leave without picking up a couple of souvenirs here and some mustard to go with my cheese.
Are you having fun in Holland?
Oh, I'm having a wonderful time. Thank you. Beautiful,
great.
beautiful country.
Volendam is a destination that reflects the great pride the Dutch take in their homes and their history. It's very tiny and a bit touristy, but because it's situated along the North Sea, it's a regular pit stop for outsiders. It draws busloads of travelers from all across Europe, mainly due to its characteristic Dutch homes. And if you're really lucky, there's always a chance you might see some of the locals dressed up in their colorful traditional costumes. Cod, shrimp, and mussels are the specialties of the town, and there's cheap stalls all along the boardwalk.
Altogether, it's 6.33, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the hot special.
Fishing is a mainstay in the Volendam region, so the catch is always nice and fresh.
Sometimes when you're in a hurry, this is the only way to go. Too much to see and do, and it looks absolutely delicious.
At the turn of the 19th century, famous painters from France, Italy, and Spain flocked to this region. The hotel manager says the starving artists couldn't pay for their lodging or meals at the local hotel, so instead they left their artwork in exchange for free room and board.
In total, around 3,000 paintings and more of it, not only paintings, but they're all pencils or whatever.
I see drawings,
Yeah.
And is there an estimated value?
Estimated value, yes. Last year, the insurance company came to our hotel, and the value at this moment is 1 million euro.
The Dutch, like most Europeans, relish a good home-cooked meal, and I'd been tipped off about the Huisje Classe just around the corner from Dam Square. The story goes that it was named after Lady Classe, born in 1520 into a prosperous merchant family.
Well, if you're coming to the Netherlands, you have to try their traditional food. What I got here is a lot. I got some kidney beans, sausage, and beef, and bacon, and some potatoes. I'm lucky enough to actually try it out. And I'll start with the beans. Ooh, minus the onion. They're good.
The people of the Netherlands are governed by a democracy. And like England, it too has a royal bloodline that's currently presided over by Queen Beatrix. Public state functions are rare, but if your timing's good, you may catch a glimpse of some of the pomp and ceremony. The Hague remains the seat of government, as well as the residence of the royal family. The nation achieved its independence from Spain in 1579, and they adopted their own constitution in 1814. Today, the Netherlands is divided into a dozen provinces.
This piazza is in the center of the old town. It's called the Binnenhof, and it's where Dutch Parliament sits. They started building it in the 14th century and continued to build up around it. Beautiful black shutters, an old gable roof, a lovely church. It's a wonderful place to sit, relax, soak up the architecture while watching the people go by.
The irregular shaped buildings date back to 1250, when Count William II of Holland began building a castle on this site, which was completed 41 years later in 1291. The buildings now house both chambers of the Dutch Parliament, a number of local government departments, and the mayor's office. Besides being the political and administrative center of the city, it's also a prominent tourist site open to the public Monday through Saturday. I suppose you can call this the smallest city in Holland. This is the miniature village of Madurodam. The Maduro family, following the death of their son in a Second World War POW camp, officially opened it in 1952. Marketing manager Cindy Spons explained to me that the grounds were built both as a tribute and to raise money for students suffering from tuberculosis.
Okay, well, we have about 200 models in the park, from churches to buildings to other things. Well, we're quite proud of the result of it.
The miniature replicas were designed to represent the historic development of a Dutch community built on a scale of 1 to 25. Each year, over 1 million people visit this amazing little theme park. It's said the Dutch visit 3 times in their lives. Once as a child, once as a parent, and once as a grandparent. And who could blame them?
Do you speak English? Speak English? Yes.
This is the North Sea in The Hague. Beautiful beach. A lot of tourists come here, but locals as well. I'm surprised to see so many people in the water, seeing as it is September, but they've been very lucky with the weather. It's also a topless beach, which doesn't surprise me at all, seeing as it is Europe.
In Europe, they start training for the nude beach at a young age, I guess. But if you're gonna romp around in the buff, this is the perfect playground. Another star attraction on the beach is the landmark Kurhaus Hotel. The historical ambiance is clearly reflected in the interior design of the hotel, which was built for comfort and style. Everyone from the Rolling Stones to Winston Churchill have all dined here. The Hague is really a quiet and relaxed community, mostly full of government workers and retired Dutch citizens. But It's also very established and chock full of important historical homes and buildings. It's also a very easy place to take in on a walking tour.
I'm in Delft. Now this place is about 20 to 30 minutes southeast of The Hague. This right here is where Delftware is made. Now Delftware is that chunky blue and white ceramics that's known all around the world. I'm gonna go inside and see exactly how everything is done. If you want to know how to distinguish this as being an authentic piece, you flip it upside down, and here you'll see a bottle, the initial of the previous owner, the initials of the painter who painted this, hand-painted it, the year, and a product number.
The Royal Delft Company was founded in 1635. Situated 30 minutes from the center of The Hague, tourists flock here to shop.
Oh my gosh, look at this one. I thought that they just did dishes, but look at this, it's massive. That would take a lot longer than 3 days, I would think.
Overlooking a small, tree-lined park in the heart of the city stands one of the most interesting historical hotels in all of Europe. Leading Nazi generals occupied this hotel for years during the Second World War.
They ran the area from this place, actually. But what they didn't know was that there were a lot of Jews stacked up the attic. The hotel owner back then used to have a lot of prize pigeons, and they were at the attic as well. So the Jews lived off the pigeons, actually. So at the end of the World War, there were no pigeons left, but almost all of them survived. So it's pretty remarkable, since there were really important German officers staying here at the hotel.
These were the very battlegrounds near Maastricht on the border of Germany, where forces fought to ferret out the last remnants of Hitler's tattered forces. But it was not without a heavy human price. These are the headstones of many young men, all American, who died on Dutch soil. Many were killed during the daring parachute raid called Market Garden, which was immortalized in the Hollywood movie A Bridge Too Far. The cemetery is situated in the rolling countryside not far from the city of Maastricht. Frank Leahy is a Dutch guide who works at the Netherlands American Cemetery.
The history started actually for this place, Margraten, on the 13th of September 1944, when this site was liberated by the Old Hickory Division and American Division. And about 2 months later, the 9th Army decided to have their cemetery here at this particular place. So on the 10th of November 1944, the first burial took place, and it was the first one of almost 18,000 Americans who were buried here once in this particular place. Big part of the soldiers who are buried here were killed during Operation Market Garden. Big operation that took place here in the Netherlands. Most of them, of course, airborne troopers who got killed near the cities Eindhoven and Nijmegen. And then you had the 1st British Airborne Division who did their jump at Arnhem. So we're talking about, I would say, about 1,000 soldiers who got killed during that operation and who are still buried in our cemetery.
450,000 people, mostly Dutch, visit the cemetery every year. Here, a father sits with his little boy and explains the bravery and ultimate sacrifice the soldiers made to liberate Holland.
It really makes you appreciate life and liberty when you see the sacrifice that these people made, and they were so young.
I'm in the city of Valkenburg. It has a population of 17,000. In the summer months, 1 in every 4 people are tourists, so they rely heavily on their tourist industry. Really nice place, lots of outside cafes and piazza type things. Sit and have a beer, socialize, unwind. I'm gonna go check out the castle.
Sitting high above the city of Valkenburg, the weathered fragments of a medieval fortress still stand as a reminder of its strategic importance to this region, both as a trading route and a defensive position.
Now this castle can tell a story. It's the castle of Ruin Valkenburg, and who lived here was the Lord of Valkenburg in the 13th century. He moved from Old Valkenburg to New Valkenburg and built his castle here because it was the highest point and it was resilient against attack.
The original structure was built in 1152 and, like most castles in Europe, was besieged so many times by its enemies that it was eventually left in a heap of stone, nothing more than a shadow of its former glory.
Now I'm going to climb up here. I think this is where the servants and the Lord would hang out to have a party. Now if you're going to do any type of partying and enjoying yourself, this is the place to do it. Look at the scenery. It's absolutely breathtaking, beautiful. You've got other castles, you've got wonderful hillside, lots of greenery, blue skies.
Valkenburg is now a prosperous town, but back in 1795, Napoleonic troops invaded the town, seized all the public buildings, and sold them off to the highest bidder. Next, I'll swing back to Maastricht and have a look at an ancient church, once used as a sanctuary for Napoleon and his French troops. It's not the oldest church in Holland, but it has an intriguing history. Its sculpted interior even captivated the imagination of the great French military leader, Napoleon Bonaparte. The Dutch have survived many wars and several foreign occupations over the centuries, so their churches have always been important sanctuaries. Churches are like castles in Europe, and Holland is no exception. You can find a local citizen paying homage just as readily as backpackers and seasoned travelers, soaking up the religious atmosphere. Sometimes I found it refreshing, even important, to escape the busy markets and outdoor restaurants and spend 30 minutes or so in quiet solitude.
And we may have a good health further days of our life.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Everybody enjoys a good bottle of wine, but nobody in Maastricht has a collection as large or diverse as John Kugel. Stashed away in John's underground wine cellar is a collection so huge that Sotheby's has pitched to buy some of his prized collection.
The most wines we have are French wines. And I don't want to say the French ones are the best of the world. I thought years ago they were the best, but momentarily the United States make good wines, Canada make good wines, Italy, excellent wine. And I love wines, and you know why? You're never gonna believe that. I was in the church when I was a young boy. I was Byzantiner, you know, helping the priests pour the wine in. And I thought, well, what these people can drink, I can drink too. Well, anyhow, from that day off, I started to drink wine, very young age, of course. Even my parents, they had a winery. We have wines here from, I'm just saying, at the Chardonnay restaurant from 40 euro, from 30 euros. We have some of 1,000 euro too, 2,000 euro. We have wines what we don't sell because they're too expensive to sell. But I may consider myself a lucky guy because we have good wines.
The St. Petersburg Caves are tucked away in the hillsides, just south of Maastricht. The cold and clammy complex is the result of centuries of excavation for building stones called marl. There are 20,000 passages in this enormous underground labyrinth. During World War II, these sandstone caves were prepared to shelter 50,000 Dutch citizens just in case of air raids.
Now this is really cool. You have, dating back to 1944, the American soldiers were here and they wrote their names, Milton F. Davis, Bernie Richards, and one of the guys who works here is actually studying the names and writes back to their family, and he's been getting responses from them.
Allied troops reached Maastricht in September 1944. So German troops never occupied the caves, but a famous French warrior did in 1798. The subterranean caves are 8 kilometers long, but at one time, they measured a staggering 200 kilometers.
The thing I really like about Maastricht is it's a walking-friendly city. Vehicles are allowed to do their thing up until noon every day, and afterwards, they're prohibited. It really gives everybody else a chance to walk around, do their shopping, and not worry about getting run over by a car or bike.
Maastricht has always been a city under siege. The Roman centurions, Napoleon's French infantry, and Adolf Hitler have all attacked and occupied the cities of Holland. If there's one thing that I discovered on my 8 days of touring the Netherlands, is that it's rich in history and architecture. I was glad I had time to have a look at this fascinating little country.
See you next week for another great adventure. And remember, don't forget your passport.